Hi, Philip here, just a random retro gamer from Europe who grew up in the 8 and 16-bit days and is a huge fan of classic JRPGs. Sadly, especially from that era, a lot of games never got released outside Japan and also never received a fan translation. So over the last few weeks, I put something together to help me translate text and audio from these games using modern AI models to make them finally playable, and at the same time support my Japanese studies by optionally adding readings for kanji or asking for an explanation, a grammar breakdown of the Japanese sentence, all with the single press of a button while playing. If that sounds interesting to you, let me show you. Before we begin, just a few quick words about why and how I made this tool, because of course I know there are already very similar and generally more polished tools out there like Luna Translator. However, for me personally, there are a few things still missing that keep me from really using them as my main solution, at least for now, and I'll talk about those later. I'm sure those tools will get there over time, and I'm actually very much looking forward to that, because I don't really consider myself a developer. The coding was done mostly by ChatGPT, so I'd be happy if I didn't have to maintain my own tool forever. With that out of the way, let's begin. Okay, so here you can see the main window, and the first tab is called Screenshot Translation, which I'd consider the heart of the tool. I mentioned before that some functionality is still missing in similar tools. One big example is that they often misidentify kanji, especially when you're playing older games with retro fonts. I noticed some time ago that I finally got some really good results when I simply uploaded screenshots to ChatGPT or Gemini. I guess that's because they look at the whole sentence and use context to figure out which kanji it actually is. Most other tools I tested over the years still do a separate OCR step first, where they transcribe the text in the game word by word without context and then send the result to a translator, which is probably one reason why the quality is lower. And since I didn't find an option to automatically send screenshots directly to an LLM without that separate OCR step, I asked ChatGPT if this could somehow be automated, and that's basically how this little project started. So what you can do here at the top is first you can switch the providers, or I use right now it's Gemini and OpenAI, and below here you can select their models. I mostly use the Gemini 2.5 Flash variants on the Gemini side, or the GPT-4o models on the OpenAI side. And here on the right you can also add or delete models yourself. One other thing I'm still missing when using other tools is the ability to maintain a list of prompts. Why do I say this? The prompt is the request you send to the models together with the screenshot, and it can actually be really powerful. It doesn't just have to say, please translate this for me. You can ask the models to do all kinds of other heavy lifting for you. I can show you a few examples of what I mean. So that's here my default prompt. Of course, I asked the model to translate the text for me. But for example here, I asked the model to also tag guessed words with backticks for me in the translation, so I know it's a guess word. Why is this important? Very often in the Japanese text, they don't have a subject or a pronoun because it's to the Japanese player clear by context. So maybe in the English localized version, a character says we have to save her, but in the original Japanese game, maybe he just says must save because we and her is clear by context. And of course the model is asked to make it a natural translation. The model also wants to be helpful. It should read naturally. And if the translation is just must save, it would feel strange. So the model then guesses what's the subject and who is the character talking about, who needs to be saved. And I have to say, the models generally do a pretty good job. In 80-90% of the time, or 80-90% of the time it's correct, but not always. And maybe then when the character says we have to save him, and to the player it's actually clear it's supposed to be a her, then this can be confusing or maybe a little bit immersion breaking. So I asked the model then to tag the guessed words, and I have to say that's actually quite helpful, because when I read maybe then we have to save him and I know it's supposed to be a her and I see the word is in backticks, then I get used to it after a while and just autocorrect it in the back of my mind. So it's less confusing when you immediately see it's a guessed word. Another thing I asked the model here to do is to send me back a transcript together with the translation back. That's actually useful if you want to compare then the transcript here with the text in the game. Then you can see if all the kanjis and characters were identified correctly. So I like doing this, but yeah, of course you can also then just remove this here if you don't want it. Let me show you here another prompt. That's actually the one I use most of the time now when playing Japanese games. It's mostly the same one as before. I asked, of course, then for a translation. I asked for tagging guessed words. I asked for a transcript, but additionally to the basic transcript, then so just maybe the text from the game for comparison to see if it got every word right. I asked the model to add the reading of kanji words after the word in parentheses, and I give the models here some examples to make clear what I want from it. For example, here we have the Japanese word for weather, which is tenki, and it's made of 2 kanji. And here you have the reading in hiragana, tenki. And this, I think, really is great for Japanese learners. And then you can play the game and you can read the transcript. And of course, one of the biggest challenges is recognizing and remembering all the kanji words and the pronunciation. And then here you have it. It's basically like the furigana you often find in Japanese books or magazines than for younger people. And yeah, the models cannot add hiragana above a kanji, but they can do this here. And I think this is really great. And especially together then with the explanation window I will go into later, I think this really helps me a lot to improve my Japanese reading and yeah, maybe then finally reach my goal to play these games then in 1 or 2 years without needing tools like this. Okay, so let me show you the tool in action with the game I'm currently playing with it. It's Kaze no Densetsu Xanadu on the PC Engine, which is one of these games that unfortunately was never released outside Japan and never got a fan translation. I own a copy of it and played it back those days, since yeah, as a huge fan of Falcom and the East games back those days, this definitely got my attention since it has similarities to the East games, but yeah, unfortunately I got stuck at one point and never finished it. But now, more than 20 years later, I'm actually past that point where I got stuck back those days. So yeah, hopefully I can play it till the end now. The first thing you want to do is select a capture region. This is handled by the translator window, since I developed this earlier, so let's open it. And then this basically works like expected from the screenshot tool. I usually select a region when playing this game, but the whole game window, because the text box sometimes can appear at the lower end of the screen, sometimes at the top. So of course you don't want to redefine the region all the time, so I would recommend then just take a screenshot of the whole game window. And so far Gemini and ChatGPT do a pretty good job then quickly finding the text on the whole screenshot and sending you back a translation. With this button here you can take a screenshot and send it to a model for translation in one go. Of course you can map these buttons here then also to a hotkey, and then with tools like Joy2Key to a controller button. Most of the time I would say this is enough. You just take a screenshot and immediately send it to the models. But there are situations, depending on of course how much you care about accuracy, where it might be a good idea to take multiple screenshots of multiple text boxes and send them to the model as a batch, so that it can stitch the text together and then send you a translation back. I will show you an example of a situation here in this game where this might be useful. For example, if you want the model to have the whole context of a longer conversation, or if maybe a longer sentence doesn't fit into one text box in the game, then this can be useful. But I would say 99 or 99.9% just one button is enough. Here you can, if you want, change the size of the screenshots. They have to be in PNG. I did experiment with JPEG, but no good. The models really like PNGs. Of course, these can get quite huge if you take a screenshot of a whole screen and maybe a game with a high resolution. So here you can balance then and look for a sweet spot, especially if maybe you don't have a high bandwidth, then you want the screenshots maybe to not get too big. So then if you set a maximum size, I have here one a little bit above 1 megabyte, then this is for me not right now the sweet spot. But if you feel maybe the upload takes too long, then you can start to lower the size. But at one point maybe then the screenshot might be not clear enough for the models to read the text, so then maybe you have to make them a little bit bigger again. But I would say just experiment with it here. If you have a higher bandwidth, of course, then maybe this is not so important. But okay, then maybe let's enter here a village and start a few conversations. So we are talking to one character now. Now I push the button, and then here we have the translation. And I think it was pretty fast. And that's because right now I use here the Gemini 2.5 Lite model. This is the one definitely right now for me the fastest. But of course, all these post-processings I asked the model to do, they might not be as reliable as with the higher models. Here actually it worked. You can see the name here is in a different color. It looks like here the name in the game. This is because I asked the models, I can show you here again, to, let's see, where is it? Yeah, here, no? I asked the model in the translation if it can identify a name to add these Japanese corner brackets around it. And actually it did. You cannot see them here because optionally I have a post-processing here in the tool to format the speaker name in a different color. And I like it if it looks a little bit like in the game. So I chose right now here is the speaker name color here, this yellow color that looks more or less like in the game, and so it looks like this now also in the translation window. If I wouldn't have ticked this box, then you could see these Japanese corner brackets, which I use first, but then I got the idea that maybe then using this as a tag for the tool to identify words, it should show in a different color. It would maybe then look even nicer. Okay, let's go on with the dialogue. Press the button. And yeah, as you can see, it takes maybe 1-2 seconds until we have the translation, which I think is definitely fine for me. This was actually even a little bit more faster. But yeah, this is if you play with Gemini 2.5 Lite and you just care about the translation, I think this is then maybe good enough for most people. So let me show you next what you can do with the higher models. So let me switch here to the Gemini 2.5 Flash. And yeah, as I showed you before, with this prompt here, for example, then you can ask the models to also add to a transcript the reading of kanji words in hiragana. Then here I also have to tell the tool to show the transcript. And then, yeah, let's give it a try. Here I'm still speaking to this doctor. So let's press the button again, ask for a translation. And yeah, you notice it took a little longer. It doesn't always have to take this long. On average, I would say 1.5 seconds longer. Might also be because I just switched to the model. Often I noticed the first time, maybe when the tool and the model get into a connection, maybe the first time it takes a little longer and then later it gets a little faster. But yeah, of course the tool is doing more for you, and as you can see at the top we have the transcript, so basically a copy of what you see in the text box. It's useful if maybe sometimes a translation doesn't make sense. You can check if maybe a kanji maybe after all was then misinterpreted. But as I said, usually these AI models now really do a good job here. But yeah, if you have the transcript there and then with hiragana reading after a kanji word, this is of course great for Japanese learners. And yeah, I'm one of these people too who started studying Japanese many years ago already by taking some classes or buying some study material. And I would say I'm maybe now at a medium level when I read the text here in the text box. I would say I understand about 50% of it. Of course, I can read hiragana, katakana, but this is just the alphabet, very simple. But yeah, it never got on a level where I could really play a game like this, because then when you play a game, you have to, at the beginning, accept that you have to stop playing the game, grabbing a dictionary, checking up some words, and when I play a game, I just wanted to play a game, so I never got to this level this way. But I think here with this tool, now after playing the game here for a few weeks, like you see here right now, checking the Japanese text, and yeah, especially if you have the reading in hiragana after a kanji word, this is really helpful. And I have to say, after a few weeks now, I already learned quite a few words that I recognize, and I quickly remember what it was. So I think this way really I can finally get there, maybe in a year or two, that I can play Japanese games without any help of an AI model. But yeah, let's see. But I think if among you some people are studying Japanese and finally want to get there too, like me, maybe then you can give this a try too. Let's go on a little bit. Yeah, and here, for example, you can also see in the translation the word "we" here on both occasions is shown here in italics. So it means this is a word the model guessed. The character doesn't say "we" in the Japanese text because it should be clear by context. I would say here, of course, if you read this, the model guessed it correctly, and as I said, I think 80–90% of the time they get it correctly. But if not, and you see it's shown here in this format, then I think it's, as I said, less irritating and immersion breaking, so also quite helpful. So takes a little longer here waiting for the translation, but the model here is writing the transcript, adding the reading in hiragana, tagging these words, so of course it's also doing more for you, but I'm sure over time this will also get faster than with later models than Google or OpenAI release. So what else can I show you? Yeah, maybe here another prompt. In this prompt, this is basically a copy of the normal default prompt. You can also leave it here completely in English, but I asked the model then to translate into German. So I tell the model you are a German translator, and here at the end I ask for a fluent German translation. I usually don't use it because I'm quite used to playing games in English, since in the earlier days, NES, Super NES days, games usually were released in English here too. But just to show you, if you want to play a game in another language, or if you want translations not into English but into French or Portuguese and Spanish, whatever, you just have to change here at the places where you ask for an English translation. You can just add here your own language you wish, and then this is all you need to do. So maybe we can just now talk to this character again, ask for the translation. And here at the top, again, kanji words. No, in this prompt I don't ask for the hiragana reading, but as you can now see here, the translation here now is in German. It looks pretty okay to me. Yeah, but as I said, I don't really use it that much. But this might be a good time to apologize then for my bad English and for my stumbling here. And I usually don't do these kind of videos. Will probably be my only YouTube video for a long time. But yeah, I hope I get my message across. But sorry again if it sounds a little bit, or if it's a little bit hard to listen to. Okay, so after the translation, let me show you something else you can do with this tool. This blue window here right now I call the translator, and you can open a second window I call the explainer, optionally if you want to use it. Let me open it here right now. Like the translator, you can change the color, the size, background transparency, the fonts, and so on. And you can also select here the provider, the model. You can have different prompts, and what I use it here for right now is I asked the model to send me back an explanation, a breakdown of the last translated Japanese text. So every time you ask the models for a translation, the tool will save a text file with the last Japanese text. And if you click here this button, or of course you can also then map it to a controller button, it will be sent to the model with this prompt, where you ask the model then here in this case, but you can also of course change it any way you want. I ask it then for a list of the vocabulary, then explain me the sentence structure, basically some grammar points, maybe then also explain the nuance and the culture, maybe then the politeness level and so on, and if maybe there are some playing with words, if there is maybe a phrase that maybe cannot be translated one-on-one, like in English, it's raining cats and dogs, you cannot translate it literally, so this will also be explained. Then give me a literal translation and maybe then 2 examples of how you can translate it, not literally, but basically the same meaning, some takeaways. And this is of course also great if you're studying Japanese, that this way, if you then, even if I can read it, the hiragana and the kanjis with the kanji reading, of course, to really understand the sentence, you need sometimes a breakdown that goes a little deeper. And yeah, this optionally here you can do it this way. And if you check this box here, you can also then ask the tool that every explanation will be saved in a text file. So then, yeah, maybe let me show this to you in action too. So here I again maybe here speak to this character. Let me just do this translation again. So here we have it now again in English, and at the top the Japanese text. So and now I press the button again, and now the tool is sending this Japanese text at the top to the model and requested a translation, an explanation. At the top left you just saw a small notification. This means the explanation is there, and then I can bring the explainer window then to the front, and then yeah, we have at the top the sentence again, and then yeah, here the vocabulary, grammar points, nuance and culture. So this Deskedo explains what kind of politeness level this is. And yeah, here the literal translation. So you can see here literally it would be serum is a lot, X is because. So you see there is not the word I in there. There is no watashi, also what is one of the way you can say I in Japanese. And that's why on the right you can see in the translation window the I is in italics, because this is guessed by the model, guessed correctly here, again like most of the time, but always nice to know it is guessed. And then here natural translations, again some key takeaways maybe then to remember again or yeah, keep in mind. But of course in this case this is now also saved as a text file on my computer. And then I can bring it again to the background, and maybe I can also show you how this is done. The same you can do, by the way, also with Luna Translator. If you play a game in full screen that is not like this one in a 4:3 aspect ratio. So yeah, here I have all the hotkeys, and then you can see, for example, here you see show hide explainer. I have here right now this shortcut, and I use Joy2Key, great tool by the way. So if you also want something like this where you can map hotkeys then to a button for controller, I can highly recommend this one here. And I have right now on L1 and L2, so L1 of these is basically then my translator button, the other is my explainer button. And if we go in here, you can see I have here 2 different inputs. One is for asking for an explanation, and the other one here is the shortcut I just showed you here for show hide explainer. And basically I have it configured right now. If I just press the button quickly, I ask for an explanation, and input 2 is triggered when I hold the button for 400 milliseconds. So I just hold it about half a second. Sometimes here, this was the button now for the translator. the same thing basically. But yeah, the other button here, then I can just push it once, ask for an explanation. This also takes a little longer, of course, but once it's done, I get here the notification, and then you can bring it to the front. So if you just want to play a game and have a translation, of course, as I said before, you can just do it with the Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite model or a higher model if you want a little bit more reliability, or you want at least the benefit here with the guest subjects. But if you want these explanations or the reading of kanjis, then of course you can also do it this way. And yeah, as I said, definitely a great way to improve your Japanese reading. Okay, lastly, let me show you a way how to use the explanation function if you really care about understanding most of the dialogues. Here we have a character that has a little bit a strange way of speaking, but it's not really clear if you play it like this and just read the English translation, because it's something that's difficult to translate. But yeah, here this girl is now talking, and if you look at the hiragana there and maybe this wavelength, this wavy line, also in the English translation, of course you can guess there is something going on, but it's not really clear, of course, what it is, and it's also not really something special. But I noticed when I was playing here that the main character here, Arios, is now speaking to himself, so it's not really a dialogue, and he is annoyed about her way of speaking. And I was wondering, what is strange about her way of speaking? What is he complaining about? And I really wanted to understand it, but if at this point I would ask the model now for an explanation of what he's saying, the models don't have the context of the translations you asked before, unfortunately, yet when you use the API models. Maybe if you would have a conversation with ChatGPT and you would have then a chat history, then the model would understand what you are talking here about. But in this situation right now, or for now, if you use the OpenAI or Gemini APIs, then every request then is isolated from the ones you did before. I'm sure something that will change over time, but for now it is what it is. But here comes in handy the ability that you can take multiple screenshots and then send them to the model as a batch, and it's basically stitching then this together as one big Japanese text block, and you get one big translation. These you can also map to controller buttons, but I would say it's rarely necessary, but in situations like this you can definitely then use it. It's useful, and we can do it now with mouse clicks. So let me move this over here, and then start the dialogue then over again. Just skip this here for now. So let's begin again. And then for now I just take a screenshot here of this. And the next one. And this one here too. And now I send all these screenshots, these 3 screenshots at once to the model for translation. Might take now a little longer, but I think it wasn't that long. So here we have then the transcript, of course, and here the whole dialogue from the beginning until the moment where here Arios is speaking to himself, being annoyed. And yeah, now I would recommend, if you really want to dig deeper a little bit, use the Pro model. I selected it here already. And yeah, ask for an explanation now of this. This might take now until up to half a minute, because it's the Pro model. It's slower, but then you will definitely then good results. And it's more text, of course. So let's wait until we get this notification. This. So then let's see. Vocabulary, grammar points. Here already the model is saying she, a particle used to list multiple reasons or states often when in words of. What's more, Lucia draws out the whole she to sound whimsy or cutesy, so yeah, definitely then one character trait already here. Lucia's speech style is a key point here. She draws out the end of her sentences. This is a stereotypical way of speaking in anime games for characters who are trying to be cute. And yeah, Arias then is probably not really happy about this. Yeah, implying her attempt to be cute is outdated and failing. This is a classic comedic and character building trope. So yeah, there you go. Definitely here useful then to send the whole dialogue then as a batch to the models for translation and explanation. And this way, if you really then, like me, you want to understand as much as possible, then yeah, here this is the way to go. So the last thing about this tool, what it can do is the audio translation. It's something I didn't spend a lot of time yet to perfect, because yeah, it's not a high priority for me so far, because it's not something I need a lot. But of course, if you ever played some Japanese PC Engine games, especially from the late 80s and early 90s, one thing you might have noticed there, that when the characters are speaking, I think maybe if you played the Dragon Slayer game in English, you also might have noticed it there. They have then the English dialogues, or E's 1 and 2. When the characters are speaking, there are no subtitles or no text boxes, so you just have the spoken dialogues. And unfortunately, when you play such a game in Japanese and they are speaking in Japanese and you have no text boxes, you cannot use the screenshot method here to translate this. So of course then I had to find another way, and I really want everything here in one tool. I don't want to juggle between different tools when playing a game. I want to have the ability to control everything using just the controller in my hand. So that's why I implemented this here too. But yeah, it's definitely something that needs a little bit more work, depending on, of course, what you expect. I have here now two ways to transcribe. Yeah, so it's a two-step translation. First, the tool is doing a transcription, and you can ask as an online model to do this, or you can do this locally. But especially here, the local way, it's not working on different computers really reliably. There is something that's still maybe tied here now to my machine. So I tested it on a virtual machine where it worked. I tested it by running the tool from a USB stick on some of my friends and family's computers, and sometimes it worked, sometimes not. But the online version usually worked, and I would say it's definitely good enough, depending on, of course, how you want to use it. So I would recommend trying it first this way. The local versions, and especially here then if you want to add GPUs to transcribe, I mean, it's definitely faster, noticeably, but for these here and there 2-3 minutes dialogues, depends on how much work you want to put into this. But definitely if you're a more skilled developer than me, what you are definitely, because as I said, I'm not really a developer, definitely something someone thinks he or she can help, I would definitely appreciate it. And then here you can use the model that's translating everything, and here I use the 2.5-Lite model again, since it's as with the screenshot, is definitely the fastest ones, at least the fastest one so far I tried. And if you want then to start the translation of audio dialogues, you just have to start the audio listening here, and you can map this button also to a controller. No? So as I said, no, I just want, when I play a game, have the ability to do everything here using the controller, bringing the windows to the foreground and hiding them, asking for an explanation, bring the window to the front and hide it again, and then just start audio listening and stop it again when there is some audio dialogues then happening in the game. So let's then start the game here, and I have a save state at the point where the prologue begins, or where the narrator starts speaking. And then you just simply have to start your audio listening here. So I do it now here with the mouse, but of course, as I said, you can map it to a controller too. But then you can see here audio is running, and it's now waiting for spoken dialogue happening, or let's hear then the opening. The way I do it is I wait until a sentence is finished and then pause the emulation. So this way then the translation can keep up. So this is definitely something that needs improvement. I think it's of course impossible to have live translation, because of course there will always be a little delay also with local tools. But for me, I would say this is good enough. I just I always just wait until the sentence is finished, pause, wait for the translation, and then go on. And of course, this would definitely not be good enough if you had a game that's full of spoken dialogues. But these earlier games just had spoken dialogues here and there, mostly then the opening or the ending, and then a few sentences then here and there. I think it was more a gimmick. But since they had no subtitles, then at least this way I can get a translation of this too. And for me, again, good enough, but definitely something that can be improved if you want. And maybe I will look into this a little bit later again after finishing here my game. But if somebody then here thinks he or she can help, again, definitely would be highly appreciated. So I think we covered the most important things: screenshot translation, audio translation, and the explanation. One little thing you can also do over here, which might be useful, is you can overwrite the results. For example, especially names in katakana are maybe not always translated by the tool the same way. For example, here I have in katakana the name Estelle, also the character here, for example, from Trails in the Sky. And maybe if you don't tell the tool exactly what to do, it might sometimes translate it, for example, here like this, because this is then the literal translation or pronunciation here of the katakana. but of course you would prefer that it always shows up as Stell here like this. So then here you have glossaries where you can enter this. Here is one where you can enter the exact Japanese variant. So here you could enter the name in katakana, add this little arrow, and then right after it is Stell. So you tell the tool, if you get this in Japanese, then always output this. So here basically it's at the translation level. And here this is a local post-processing. If you maybe struggle to enter Japanese, then here you could also then just enter, if you get this here as an English translation, replace it with this. So might be over time something useful if you want to have more consistent results in the text box. And you can also here maintain lists then for different games over time if you want. So maybe then the last thing here, how to get this to work. I mentioned before that this tool here uses the OpenAI and Gemini APIs. And the API keys you can enter here if you want, or I also explain here where you can enter them in Windows directly, which I would say is a little bit more secure. But of course, if you want to use the more convenient way, you can enter the Gemini key here or the OpenAI key here. And this way, then the tool can use these APIs. If you want to use them, you need to have an account, of course, at OpenAI or Google. You can use the normal accounts you maybe already have, so you don't need, for example, a Google Workspace account, what is I think the professional version they have. And once you have an account there, you need to log into your accounts there and change some settings so you use these APIs. These APIs are not for free, but the good news is you don't need to sign up for an encryption. You don't need to sign up for a subscription or anything like this. These are charged and built to you as you go. At OpenAI, you can also pay upfront. So I paid at one point upfront 15 euros, and I still didn't use them up totally. And at the Google side, you get billed once a month, and they are really not that expensive. I can show you here the price list for the 2.5 Flash. Yeah, it's the preview, but 2.5 Flash is basically the same. It's 30 cents per 1 million tokens. And if you send a screenshot to the APIs and ask for a translation, so I asked ChatGPT and Gemini how many tokens these are, so it's on average 300-400 tokens. So for every translation you ask the models for, it's really just fractions of a cent. I think this here is my billing overview. Yeah, this here is my credit balance here at OpenAI, and I still have $6.53 left from the 15 euros, or maybe it was 15 US dollars. I paid up front, and I really used this. This was maybe then 2 months ago, and I used it quite extensively. So it's definitely much cheaper than maybe what you pay every month for a video streaming site. And again, it's not a subscription. So if you stop playing a game, then in my case, the $6.53, they would just stay here until I start playing a game again. So you don't have to remember canceling anything. Once you are signed up and you paid upfront, or you gave them your credit card number to charge you later, then you have to create the API keys. And for example, here in Google Studios, here is my API key, or here the end of it. Then I can just copy it here, and I enter it here into the tool, and then you're ready to go. Okay, I think that should cover the most important things. I put this on GitHub, including a release that at least worked from me from a USB key on a friend's computer and in a virtual machine without any of the environments I used installed, so I hope it will work for you too if you're interested in giving it a try. Again, I'm not a real developer, and this is more a result of passion than of coding skills. So if someone here who knows more about coding wants to help improving things, like maybe for example the audio translation, or otherwise sees ways here or there for improvements, of course I'd be happy to get some assistance. But I would feel more happy or even honored if maybe someone could copy the concepts and make a more native feeling and professional app that basically does the same thing. Or Luna Translator could implement a few things like maintaining multiple prompts, screenshot translation without the OCR step, and audio translation. Lastly, I just want to say that I'm still so happy and excited, since this is already my dream tool becoming a reality I had been waiting for a long time. But things are still getting better, fast, and the last announcements for upcoming models from Google and OpenAI mention things like more context awareness and better long-term memory. So I guess not too far in the future the models hopefully can follow a JRPG story screenshot by screenshot like the player, and they will guess then the subjects and pronouns better, since they will know which character is being talked about. So this last problem, if you want to call it one, with these AI translation then will also go away, and I expect them to only get even faster and not slower. Maybe one day also local versions of this on your computer without internet connection maybe can do the job. So yeah, let's see, definitely exciting times. This excites me not just for untranslated retro JRPGs, but also more recent ones, since over the last years many games were localized by people who were also, in my opinion, woke activists, and they changed dialogues, removed jokes that they considered problematic for no reason, and even used ideological terminology that should have no place in a fantasy JRPG, which is supposed to be an escapism from reality, where you don't want to be lectured and annoyed by this. And as you might have noticed by now, I am a huge fan of Falcom games for decades, but I stopped playing the official localized versions a few years ago, sometime around Trails of Cold Steel 4 or maybe then into Reverie. Years ago, since especially NIS America is a good example for these bad localizations over the last years. Luckily, there are unofficial fan translations out there, and you can easily patch the Asian versions of these games from Steam, which I would encourage people to give a try. But I think I will simply play the Japanese versions from now on using this tool, also for newer games, and until my Japanese skills are good enough, and if they are, then I think I will just play the Japanese versions without any assistance anyway. And I hope Japanese companies will simply mainly use AI in the future to translate games instead of depending on these localizers that change and center things. Seeing Square Enix getting rid of a lot of their Western staff was already letting me look more hopefully into the future, but these developments in AI make me even more optimistic. Things are getting better and maybe inspiring. At least a handful of people giving this a try can be my contribution. So yeah, thanks for watching and wish you have a wonderful day. And since I'm not a real YouTuber and don't plan a YouTube career, I'm not asking to like and subscribe, since this will likely be my only video here for a long time.